पतये पतये नमो नमो रोहिताय सपतये वृक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो मन्त्रिणे वाणिजाय कक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो भुवन्तये वायुस्थिताय औषधीनां पतये नमो नमो उच्चे घोषाय गन्धयते पत्तीनां पतये नमो नमः कृष्णगीताय धावते सत्त्वनां पतये नमः नमः सहमानाय नित्यादिनां पतये नमो नमः खगुवाय निषङ्गिने सेनानां पतये नमो नमो निषङ्गिन इषुधिमते तस्कराणां पतये नमो नमो वञ्चते परिवञ्चते सायूनां पतये नमो नमो निचेरवे परिचरायारण्यानां पतये नमो नमः श्रीपापिभ्यो जिगापुंसभ्यो मुष्णतां पतये नमो नमो सिमभ्यो नक्तञ्जलभ्यः प्रकृतानां पतये नमो नमो ऋषीशिवे गिरिचराय कुलुञ्जानां पतये नमो नमः इषुमद्यो दन्वाविभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः आचन्वानेभ्यः प्रतिवदानेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः आयच्छद्यो विसृजद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमोऽस्यभ्यो विद्यभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः आसीनेभ्यः शयानेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः स्वपद्भ्यो जागृभ्यश्च वो नमो नमस्तिष्ठभ्यो तापद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो अश्वेभ्यो अश्वपतिभ्यश्च वो नमः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीमनीषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
have a very special program for you because we have very special guests with us this evening. Firstly, we have Dr. Narendranath Reddy, the chairperson of Prashanti Council. We have Brother Ramesh Athiramani and Mrs. Sarita. He is the Central Coordinator for Africa and he's from Nigeria. We have Brother Anupam Ganguly and Dr. Chapa. He's the SSIO Media Chair. We have Brother Rohan Balasurya, the SSIO Hospitality and Medical Services Chair. Sister Geeta Mohan Ram and husband Mr. Mohan Ram. They are from the United States. On behalf of the Sri Sathya Sai organization, we welcome our very special guests this evening. I would not want to say very much more about them because I know you are all waiting with bated breath to hear our speakers speak. We had a very good, fortunate opportunity of listening to them when we were in Durban this weekend, and I am sure that you will all leave here this evening with a lot of enthusiasm and wanting them to come back. But without further ado, I would ask Sister Narendranath Reddy to welcome our guest speakers for this evening.
My humble pronounce at the divine lotus feet of our most wonderful Lord, Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Om Shri Sai Ram. One and all. How wonderful to see you here this Monday evening. As Sister Lavita has said, we have come back from a fully charged weekend in Durban. Swami has blessed us with the most outstanding and magnanimous, divine energy-filled pre-World Conference, the Sathya Sai Pre-World Conference held in Durban from the 4th to the 6th of September was the most memorable occasion I have ever experienced, having been to Prashanti many times. The divine energy and love that flowed from our esteemed brothers and sisters who graced the occasion with divine messages of love and selfless service being the themes of the conference was absolutely mind-blowing. We bring with us from Durban, those of us who have been there, our sisters and brothers and the youth that put on a magnanimous production of the IMI production that you have all already seen on the 24th of April, and they have really made us proud in the Western Cape. So a big thanks. With that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Narendranath Reddy. He is at present, as you have heard, our Prashanti Council chairperson. Prashanti Council, as you know, is the mother body of the Sathya Sai International Organization. He also serves at the Sathya Sai World Foundation. By profession, Dr. Reddy is a specialist endocrinologist. He graduated in medicine with distinction from the SV Medical College in Andhra Pradesh. Then he went to the US to specialize. He specialized in internal medicine and later he subspecialized in endocrinology and metabolism at the Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York. He's also on the teaching staff of the University of Southern California. As most of you probably know, 4 generations of his family were Sai devotees. He's blessed to have all of that history and experiences to share with his family that they have had and be graced with the presence, very, very close presence with Swami. Dr. Reddy was blessed to spend himself so much of time, close time with Swami, and I believe that is where Swami was grooming him to be the magnanimous world Sai leader that he is today, leading our Prashanti Council. He has, even at present, a Sai center at his home that has been running for the last 25 years. He is also the chair of the International Medical Committee that oversees all medical major programs that run throughout the world, including in Prashanti. With those few words, I know I have not done him justice. Please forgive me, Dr. Reddy. But I would not like to take any more time from the session that Swami has graced us with, but to just welcome him to the podium to give us his address. So for the next 45 minutes or so, please sit back and look forward to the next word of Dr. Narendranath Reddy.
With love and reverence, I offer my prayerful pranams at the divine lotus feet of our loving Lord, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Dear brothers and sisters, loving Sai-Ram to all of you. It's wonderful to see on a Monday evening. I didn't expect this much turnout. It's wonderful, that shows your love and dedication to Swami. So last time I was here a few years ago, we had meetings in Durban, and some of the devotees from Cape Town and Joburg asked, how is it you are not coming there? I said, when Swami gives the right timing, will come, and looks like this is the right timing. I am happy I am able to meet the devotees in Cape Town today, and tomorrow I think in Joburg I'll be able to share Swami's message in Joburg. And another thing I want to congratulate the Cape Town people is that you have very powerful youth groups. Really, I was very impressed with the cultural program they made, and the devotional singing reminds of really Prashant Pillai. It was very, keep it up. So this is really wonderful to see that. So, and also I can feel you have a lot of bhava, that means feeling you can feel, and we all are touched with that. And because Swami says he is bhava priya, not bahya priya. So most of the times we get, he says, putting flowers, and also beautifully says, I am not interested in your frame, I am interested in your prema. Because we put beautiful frames, golden frames and silver frames, but the pictures is nice, but more important, Swami is not the frame, but the prema. And same things, flowers, we all put wonderful flowers. Telugu beautifully says, పువ్వులెన్ని తెచ్చి పూజలు చేసిన మెచ్చుకొనడు తాను పుచ్చుకొనడు హృదయ కమలమివ్వ సదయుడై గ్రహించు సత్యసాయి శాంతి ప్రేమదాయి. Any number of flowers you bring, I am not interested. I am interested in the pure flower, heart, pure heart, flower of your pure heart. So this is what Swami is giving message, that we need to have this bhava. By the way, thanks Lalini for that. What you said was too generous introduction, so I offered that to Swami. That is too much. I just, right away when you were saying, I was reminded of Professor Kasturi. He was a wonderful biographer of Swami, great orator and wonderful devotee, and inspired many people. So he used to go around and speak in India, many places. And one time he went to Bengal to talk about Swami and came back. So he thought Swami will say, what a great job you did. Instead of that, Swami started ignoring him. He never talked to him. So he felt miserable. I thought I did share Swami's message, what is this punishment? So after, when you are having close interaction on a daily basis with Swami, if he ignores you, that's like a living death. So we all go through this most vigorous punishment anybody can have. So he was not able to sleep well, he was not eating. His mother also was living in Prashant at that time. She could not see her son suffering so much. So she went to Swami, she fell flat, and she said, Swami, my son is so miserable, please forgive him what he did. Then Swami said, ask him to come. Then he went there, he fell flat, Swami, please, what did I do wrong? And Swami showed the flyer in West Bengal, and he said, Swami, I shared your message. See what you shared at the bottom, he said, interviews with Professor Kasturi. So he said, you are giving interviews. Swami, I didn't tell them to put, they put it, what can I do? But he says, but you are enjoying inside, they put it nice. So Swami knows even inside, so we should be careful about our ego. So just that's why I said I will offer to Swami that one. So always, Swami says, ABC, always be careful. So we are really very blessed and fortunate. I know this evening I don't want to spend too much time, I know. And also Sister Geeta, we want her to have the time to share and inspire you. So, we should go on reminding, I remind myself and we remind every one of us how blessed and fortunate to be the contemporaries of the Avatar. So it is very, very important to remind, we take it granted sometimes. So, and Swami in his infinite compassion, in May 17th, 1968, in Mumbai, the First World Conference, he said, sages, saints, anchorites, and monks have been praying thousands of years to have this glimpse of divinity, because he is the embodiment of all divine names and forms. So don't take granted and make the best use of this chance. You never know when you get. So we don't realize how lucky and fortunate we are, because in the old age, in Sathya and Treta Yuga, Dwapara, people have to do thousands of years of tapas to have one darshan. You read in the scripture, Dhruva, how many years he did tapas. And most of the people have to do austerities for thousands of years to have one glimpse of God. And Shabari, in Ramayana, you say how many years she waited, and just he had one darshan of Lord Rama. What happened? She merged in Rama. Only one darshan, she became liberated. Whereas we, how many darshans, how many sparshans, how many sambhashans. So one of the devotees from USA asked Swami, Swami, why is it Shabari? One time she saw you and you merged, and we have to have so many things. But that is why Swami says, what is that she prepared so intensely every day for so many years absorbed. Whereas you come just for the short time, you think about me and then forget and get involved in your other affairs. So important is how intense our preparation for God is. That is how we get the benefit. We should remember that. And also Swami said in that particular discourse, it's very important, nobody should try to understand me, try to experience and enjoy my love. And he very much cautioned, even if all of you for thousands of years combined together try to understand me, do the austerities, you can never understand me. So never try to use head for understanding Swami, use your heart, open your heart and experience His love. That's what I would advise. And just next door we went and saw the temple they have with all the gods and goddesses, Subramanyam, Shiva, and Rama. Just I was reminded, just one form of our Bhagavan Baba, all the names and forms are his. He has given vision of everything, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus. And you might have read in the books, but I can tell you interesting one. Muslim friend of mine, he went to see Swami. He said, is it really Allah? He had a feeling. Because people in Muslims, they don't believe in God with form and name. They believe God with form. For him, God is without form. So Allah is without. So he went for darshan. Swami, are you really that Allah? Are you my Allah? Then Swami in front of him, when he was going for darshan, for a while, he disappeared. Nothing, no form was there. So even for Muslims, he was showing that he is the same Allah. And recently I was in Munich, Germany, in the Northern Europe, for the pre-world conference. There, one of the zone chairs, she is a German, Petra Van Pulaski, she was telling. So she went to see Swami for the first time in India many years ago, more than 20 years ago. First time she saw Swami, she saw a monkey face, and there is still, she was so scared because she's a very, she thought maybe I came to a wrong place, this is Antichrist, what God, what happened? Because she doesn't know Hanuman, because she comes from Germany and she never know about Hanuman. Then she was worried what she was going on. Suddenly some Indian devotee sitting next to her, when she was going to some book and there was Hanuman's picture. Who is this? This is our god, monkey god, he's so great, Geeta. So Swami gave the vision of Hanuman to this German woman of all the people. So it's not only all the other forms, Hanuman. And I was in Brazil, Rio in Brazil, also a few months ago. There one of the attendants, one of the boys like this, Reddy, I forgot, always she was struggling on the Shane. So Reddy was helping, that he used to help me for my IT things, and this boy Jaya. So he was following Hare Krishna before he came to Swami. And that time, first time he went Prashantalayam for darshan, Swami gave the beautiful vision of Radha Krishna to him. So just he saw, Swami was Radha Krishna. So just to show how Swami is all names and all forms. And another thing is, Swami is source of all knowledge. In Vishnu Sahasranamam it is said, Yogo Jnanam Tada Sankhya Vidya Shilpadi Karmacha. He is not only source of all arts, all sciences, and all spiritual knowledge. He is not just saying, it is really true, you are singing good bhajans. So there was one lady, Kamala Sarthi, you know her? She was a wife of Defense Secretary of that time, Partha Sarthi. So she was very good devotee and also very good bhajan singer, and she was very fond of Tyagaraja Kirtis. She had a teacher in Delhi who was teaching her. So she wanted to show Swami to him, and she brought him to Prashantalayam. And then Swami called both of them for interview. And in the interview, so he was wondering when he listened to the bhajans, because people who are expert musicians, for them this bhajans, look what kind of music this is, he was disappointed. So, but when he called in the interview, says he was thinking, that was in his mind. Then Swami suddenly started humming some rare Tyagaraja Kritis, which are not common Tyagaraja Kritis, which everybody knows. This man was surprised, my God, how does he know these things? So he was asking, Swami, how did you know? When did you learn? Who taught you? So then he said, who do you think taught Tyagaraja? So that means I am the same Rama come again as Sai Rama. So he is the one who taught. So another one of my friends is no more, was chairman of Larsen and Toubro, Ramakrishna. So he is the one who built the sports stadium, the administrative buildings, Sai Kulwant Hall. So when we were building Sai Kulwant Hall, they showed the architect plans. The pillars were such that people won't have darshan. They consulted the engineers, architects. They could not come up with a plan where everybody can have a nice darshan. And Swami looked at the plan, just changed a little bit, juggled around. Amazed how now the way the darshan is for everybody so much possible. So he says it was all, and these people are not ordinary. He was very well qualified, many doctorates in engineering. So how Swami showed that he knows everything. Same thing with medicine. I have seen one of my friends, he is a cardiac anesthesiologist from USA, and he was working in Swami's hospital in Puttaparthi. And then they had to do this particular angioplasty because the heart arteries were blocked. And then when we were doing that, artery almost was trying to rupture. Then he didn't know what to do because the way patient's blood pressure was going down. Then right away he said, Sai Gayatri, he was chanting. And right away the vital signs turned around and he was saved. Oh my God, because he didn't want anything happen. Next day, Swami exactly described what was happening in the operating room to show that he is source of not only architecture, medical knowledge, and music, Vedas, everything he is. Not only the physical presence, even in USA, one of the doctors recently, he was in California, Dr. Jivananda, he was the chairman of cardiac surgery in the University of Chicago. He was telling the same thing. They was doing some cardiac complicated surgery, and the patient was going down, and he had one picture of Swami, and he was touching his own heart and the patient, and the things turned around. Just to show how we have sincere love for Swami, longing, how he takes care of everything. And he takes care of not only major things, he takes care of minor things too, everything for us. This happened to me about 30 years ago. So we were having a satsang, like we are having satsang, and after the satsang we have potluck. In America, everybody brings some food and and fruits, and we have prasad, and people go because it is late in the evening. And then that day when we were going to the satsang, on the way I saw a place and I was interested, French fries was there. I told my wife, let us have some French fries. And she said, why do you want to? You should have sealing and desire. Swami said, you should have sealing and desire. So, said Swami said, wife, wisdom invited forever. I said, oh yeah, I was disappointed, but I had to hear. I said, okay. So I had to, what you are saying is true, though it is disappointing. So I said, then we went to the satsang, we had nice bhajans, and we had good discussions, and after that we had prasad. Usually they bring somebody with pasta, somebody rice, somebody fruits, and different things will be there most of the time. That day I see what was the French fries. Never they did it before, and never it happened before. That day there were French fries. You say Swami, how every little thing he watches like a mother. She is always. And same thing, I love sweets. One time Swami said, Narendra, you are eating too much sweets. Then I said, Swami, from today onwards, I will give up sweets. Like a real mother, he was so scared. He slapped me and said, don't say that, eat, but eat little bit, don't eat too much, that's all. Like a mother says, so he was not happy, and I said, I will give up the sweets. Just because like a mother loves the child, want to enjoy, but don't indulge yourself too much. So that way. And also people think, okay, Swami took care of us when he was in the farm. Let me tell you, he takes care of us even now, all the time. Like I said, deserts, I shared this one place. I was there in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, a few months ago for a pre-world conference. There we had a nice dinner in the pre-world conference, but they didn't have a dessert. So I wanted to tell the organizers, what is this, no dessert, but I didn't want to hurt their feelings. So I was going back to the room, me and there is another senior devotee, Prashanti Council member, Leonardo Geeta. And then we were just about to enter the room, then one lady comes in to me, Mr. Geeta, Dr. Reddy, can I disturb you for a minute? Yes, I have this plate of dessert. Will you mind having a little bit of it? I said, definitely, we enjoy. And we thank Swami, thanks for sending it. So I was telling Leonardo, I didn't want to tell you and hurt your feelings. I was thinking about this, how Swami sends the dessert. So how he takes care of every little thing for us. So Swami's miracles are galore. So his miracles are mind-boggling and really awe-inspiring. So you can't understand the miracles. So in the last few days we are listening from many devotees. Every devotee, there's so many miracles happening. I remember about 35 years ago, I was going to Singapore. I went to a few bhajan centers. There were so many miracles happening, vibhuti happening, and amrutam coming, nectar coming. So I was so excited. I never saw that kind of thing before. And I went to Prashanti, and Swami called us, and I told I was excited. Swami, so many miracles happening in Singapore. Swami Buddhile says, every person has a miracle. Every house has a miracle. I was wondering how is it didn't happen. Miracle, I was thinking those days, only Vibhuti coming and Kumkum coming or Amrut. Now I realize when I travel around the world, each one of you in your own way can write a book and show the miracles that is happening in different ways. A book or some cure and different ways Swami touches each one of us. So these miracles is for each one of us, not that only Amritam coming, Swami transforms people, Swami cures disease. Different way this happens. Miracles are the visiting cards of God. Like even Jesus Christ, He made the lame walk, blind see, and cured the lepers. So same thing, Swami also cured incurable diseases. These are all miracles are like visiting cards. I said visiting cards, Swami said. That means just to go to a visit, then that role stops. And another thing Swami warned, Miracles are like mosquitoes on an elephant in his divine mission. And a big elephant, how much little is the mosquito? So miracles, we should not get stuck. We enjoy miracles. It is nice, we enjoy Swami, took care of us, helped us, but that is only the beginning. So Swami said there is 4 stages. First is chamatkar, miracles. Next is samskar, you need to have transformation. Next is paropkar, you should go to service. Finally, sakshatkar, that is realization of self. Otherwise, most of us, like primary school stage, you get stuck only in miracles. How many times you talk about this? Enjoy, sure, we enjoy talking about the miracles, his leelas. But if you want to really reach the goal, what Swami wants us, we should go to the next steps. So next step is, you have enjoyed the miracles, come to Swami, transformation. Swami said, I am not interested in your bhakti, I am interested in your transformation. So in the transformation, I want to touch a couple of important things. One is, most important is for all of us, forbearance. We are all in life, everybody, whether you are a king or a pauper, you are a scholar or ignorant, and whether you are rich or poor, you are a saint or a sinner, every one of us, as a part of life, will have ups and downs in life. So how you face it, that's why Swami said forbearance is very, very important. So how you face that, that's why one of the saints said, spirituality is not immunity from difficulties. Everybody will have it, but peace in difficulties. In spite of having difficulties, you will have peace. And you read this history of all saints, Meera, Surdas, and Tyagaraja, and even Professor Kasturi, full of troubles from the time, but still in spite of that, they were in tune with God, they are always joyful and peaceful. That is what we need to exercise. Forbearance, whenever something comes, so how to bear. That is what Swami says, bear all, what? Fill up the gap. Bear all and do nothing. Like this formula, everything Swami is simple. Hear all, say nothing. Give all, take nothing. Serve all, be nothing. So we should be zero. So in everything like formula he says, so we should, this forbearance, Swami gave a beautiful discourse in Vrindavan. So this is very powerful. So we all need to have this forbearance. Second quality is, don't find faults in others. So Swami says, dog in India always tries to go and find the chappals, shoes. Similarly, bad man always tries to go and find the faults in others. I can tell you a little anecdote of a wonderful devotee by name Gopal Rao. He was the chairman of Andhra Bank. Swami did his 100th birthday celebration in the Sai Kulnath Hall. And this man was very, not only near to Swami, but dear to Swami. Swami used to take him in the car. And one time Swami said to him, Gopal Rao, why don't you tell that man, I don't want to tell that man, the Shetty in the ashram, to behave better. Then he says, Swami, that man is a very wealthy man, and he gave up everything for your sake. He did a lot of sacrifice. How can I tell him to correct himself? Then he said, Swami, and he has been a devotee for you for more than 20-30 years. So how can I tell him what to do? Then Swami said, no, why you should tell him he is not behaving even though he may be there here for a long time. Then he said, he is such a good man. I have so many troubles in my Swami, how can I tell him what is the problem? So Swami still was asking, you do that. Then he said beautifully, climax, Swami, your God, if he doesn't listen to you, how will he listen to me? Then Swami said finally, just I wanted to see what you will respond. So Swami tests, and this man answered, Swami, I got the right side of my bed today. That's why I gave the right answer. Otherwise, Swami wanted to trap him. So just even God wants to see whether you really yield to the temptation, finding faults in others. So just, Swami, I don't know, you know better. So this man, how is a seasoned devotee and is a really pure man, we answered, don't try to find faults in others. And third important thing is forgiveness. We always, somebody does something, we have vengeance, retaliation, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. But we should forgive and forget. That's very, very important. All this, that's why Jesus, even when he on the cross, what did he say? Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. And his apostle Peter asked Jesus, Master, how many times should I forget the wrongdoer? He says 7 times 70. That means go on forgiving. Whereas 1 time, 2 times, then we get restless and we retaliate. Particularly nowadays, there is what I call email wars. If one guy does, then another guy compounding. And it is so common even among our spiritual organization, Sai 4. Please, whenever I tell people, if you have something different, negative, don't put in the email etiquette. Because you don't know how many people it will go to. So if it is difference of opinion, for me, I always tell people, please call me, we'll talk on the phone. It is not recorded, but this is permanent record. One of my attorneys was telling, once you write an email, even you say your hard drive has crashed, they can recover from it. So just be careful what you write, and even as a spiritual seeker, better never put anything negative in your email. A negative thought, that's not good. And another thing in transformation, simple basic things I'm touching, so it looks very simple, but Swami emphasizes. 2 things every day we do. What? Eat food and talk. So what it's for, this is important part of transformation for a spiritual seeker. First I will tell about talking. So Swami says, silence is the language of a spiritual seeker. Then you may be wondering why I'm going on talking. So that's why Swami says, don't be a platform hero and practical zero. So the great masters, there is a method called the Dakshinamurti method. So even Swami in one of the schools, there is a Dakshinamurti in front of one of the school, where beautifully it is said in Sanskrit, I don't want to bombard you, in the Chitram Vadutarar Mule, in the root of the banyan tree, the Guru is sitting. Guru is a young man and disciples are old. Vruddha Shishya Gurur Yuva. Gurustu Maunam Vyakhyanam. Guru, how does he teach? With silence. Shishyastu Chinna Samsheha. All the doubts of the disciples are gone. Just modern medium of instruction is silence. That is why even great masters are like that. Paul Brunton, you might know Paul Brunton is in search of secret India. He went to many masters in India and he goes to Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi ashram. Being a Westerner, he goes late in the night. When he goes in the night to the ashram, so there was nobody there, he went to his room straight. And suddenly there is a man half clad and he suddenly comes in his room and sits. He thought it's very rude, without appointment, somebody comes in the room, sits for a while and leaves. But during the time he felt so much joy and peace, he could not describe it. Even though first he was annoyed. Next day he goes, that was Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. So there was no dialogue, no discussion, but just being in his presence. That is the Dakshinamurti method. So really if you are a spiritual seeker and you are in the advance, just your very presence, people will feel that joy and peace. So first is practice silence. Before we talk, number 1, Swami says, ask, will it be improving on silence? That means, Swami says, speech is silver, silence is golden. So that is why we need to, as much as possible, practice silence. That itself is a sadhana. Swami says, you need to practice silence. So, okay, sometimes we have to talk. You can't say somebody is talking, you can't be rude. So if it is talk necessary, first you should say, is it necessary to talk? First criteria. So if it is necessary to talk, second criteria should be, is it truthful? The Swami says very important. That's why Swami's name is Sathya Sai Baba. So Swami is very much particular using the word Sathya. One time I was talking about Sai Baba organization. Swami said, put Sathya, there are so many Sai Babas. I am Sathya Sai Baba. I am the only true Sai Baba, Sathya. So truth is very, very important. So we need to see is it truth or not. Because nowadays I see some senior devotees and people in the organization, in the name of speaking obligingly, they tell lies, which is very dangerous. So it is bad karma. So is it truthful? If it is truthful, whether it is soft and sweet. Some people, when they talk, they're so loud, you're talking to one person, the end of the hall, somebody will listen. So learn from Swami. Swami, when he gives a discourse, thousands of people will be able to hear. But when he talks to you, I have seen many of us, you will be talking to you, next person you will be sitting, you won't be able to hear, because it is only for that particular person. So when you are talking to one person, the whole hall doesn't need to hear. But some people talk so loud. Even simple things Swami says, I remember, this was 20 years ago, Swami was addressing the Western devotees in the Purnachandra hall. And they were very good devotees, but excited that the Western influence. Everything Swami says, they giggle and clap, laughing loudly. And Swami got so mad. This is not an entertainment show. This is for enlightenment. So this is, and Swami says, God, they call Metasmita Sundara. That means always you see gentle smile of Rama, Krishna. You don't, the only Swami says demonic laughter. Laughter is loud laughter. You be happy, nothing wrong. But loud laughter is not good. He says, your joy should be seen, not heard. Your joy should be seen, not heard. Don't make it very, that's why in some of the movies, these demonic people, they make it big, loud and laughing. So just be happy. That's why I'm not saying don't have a long face, cast oil face, that's not good. Swami said if you have a long face, cast oil, either you have indigestion or stomach pain, it's not spirituality. So just have a cheerful and happy face. So the third thing is, we should soft and sweet. And next thing is, whether it is going to hurt somebody's feelings. That Swami says, Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Na bruyat, satyam apriyam. So if you talk sweetly and see whether it hurts somebody. If it is hurt somebody, just better you don't speak. And another thing is, Swami says when you speak, you should be concise. Some people in the email, some people write a whole 2 pages, finally there will be 2 points. Similarly, when you are talking, some people go on talking, finally I said, what is the point? So nowadays, a lot of officers, oh, these are the 3 points I want to discuss with you. They know I want points 1, 2, 3. What is the message you want to? Be concise and precise and brevity. So these are all simple things, but this is what I am sharing, what Swami said about speech. Because every day, morning to evening, whether at work or at home or in the community, we talk. And another thing is about the food. Also food we eat. We're supposed to eat the yogis one time, but we eat 2 times. Swami says 1 time we eat yogi, 2 times bogi, 3 times rogi. So we are beyond rogi. I eat more than 3 times. But Swami says, first, like before talking, when we are eating, he said, is it necessary to eat? Swami says, only if you are hungry, we should eat. So, and eat in moderation. First is necessary to eat in moderation. For me, that was a question, Swami, how do I know moderation? Some big man, you had to eat little boy, you had to eat a small amount. I didn't know, how can we know moderation? Somebody maybe eat a big plate full of food for a big person, small person, small amounts. How do you know moderation? I asked Swami, how do I know I eat to moderation? How is it moderation? Because even Lord Krishna says, Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu. You eat moderation. Swami said, beautiful, everything has a good answer. You have hunger before when you are hungry, you want to eat, right? Because to appease the hunger. So before you eat, you are light, because you are hungry. After you eat, only difference should be your hunger should be gone. Still you should be light. Whereas most of the time we are saying, my God, I can't get up, I don't want to. That means it's too heavy. And another side, Swami said, if you go on drinking too much water after eating, that means you overate. So these are the things we want. So you should be as light after eating as you were before. Only difference is your hunger should be gone. So that is the important thing you need to watch about. These are all simple things. What spiritual seekers, Swami says, food is important because essence of the food makes up the mind. So that's why what you eat, what that makes your mind. And another thing is, once you eat this food, it should be sattvic food. Particularly for a spiritual seeker, Swami emphasized sattvic food is very essential. One of the Guru Purnima discourses, Swami has many credentials, 4 basic credentials. You all of you know, I want to remind, because sometimes some devotees, I heard, they forget that. It is number 1, no eating meat. Second, no alcohol. Third is no smoking. Fourth, no gambling. So gambling. Somebody said he doesn't go to Las Vegas horse racing. He said doesn't gamble, but he does commodities. You know, this I said that is as much gambling, I said, as playing cards or playing that. So these are the basic principles Swami says don't do. So sattvic food, Swami says, is very important for a spiritual seeker. Somebody says sattvic food, then some students, I was there in the veranda, Swami was talking. So there's yogurt is a sattvic food. So because it is sattvic, they were eating large amounts of yogurt because that's what, and some people also cheese, even Swami said, go on eating because he's a vegetarian. Swami says sattvic food, when you take in excess, becomes tamasic. So even because tamasic, main thing is not only quality, the quantity is important. And one time Swami said pickles, he said, is rajasic, it is equal to eating meat. Exactly, you can go back and verify the discourse of Swami. Just the pickles, she says, very rajasic and equivalent to eating meat. So we should be careful, don't go to extremes. Because Swami said, just watch in moderation, be careful what we sattvic. But also another thing, food, whenever you eat the food, you should know where the source of the food is, because the person who cooks the food, where you eat, and the people with whom you eat, all those vibrations affect us. So we should be careful as much as possible, eat at your home or in people where you know the people are good people who are doing it. Swami said many stories, we don't have enough, how what the people who cook influences the vibration. Swami told about a saying, how he stole a spoon when he went to somebody's house because the cook who was cooking, she has the habit of kleptomania. That means she always likes to steal things. So the food influences this particular saying. So you should be very careful where you eat and what you eat, with whom you eat. But sometimes we don't have a control. So you are coming out of the town and you are going someplace, we have to eat someplace. But then, to avoid all these things which are not under our control, chant food prayer, pramarpanam. Then whatever vibration, negative vibrations will go away. The same food, instead of food, it becomes prasada. Once we do food prayer, the same food becomes prasada. So these are the basic things, but I thought I would chant in transformation. This is very, very important. And once you do that, next stage, what is the third one? Good, somebody is listening. Thank you. So, because Swami said about things, there are spiritual seekers 3 types. This also I want to share a little story which I said. There was a king known for his generosity. He used to give things. And one time, one sculptor went to 3 statues. These are Swami stories. They looked identical, and then he told Your Highness, give whatever it is worth. But they all looked alike. He didn't know how it is different. He had a vice minister. So vice minister said, Your Highness, give the statues. He put one wire in the one ear of the statue. It came out to the other ear. Thank you. Then he said, it's the lowest kind. Give it 100 rand. Rands right here. So next one, he took the statue and put in the ear. It came out to the mouth. He said, this is better. You can give 1,000 rands. So next one he took and he put in the ear, it didn't come out. This is the best kind. You can give half your kingdom, it is most invaluable. Swami says those 3 represent the spiritual seekers. Some people it goes in the one ear, it goes to the other ear. It doesn't sink in, so nobody pays attention. And Swami says, these people say, oh, Swami gave very powerful discourse, this is the best I have heard. Swami will ask, what is the point? What did Swami say? That means it's powerful discourse, but you don't even remember the essence point. This has one ear it goes, another ear. Second one is better, it goes to the ear, comes out to the mouth. That means remember the points, we will tell, we will share. So those are Swami says they are platform heroes, practical zeros. They give good in giving speeches, writing books, but don't practice. But the highest are those where it goes to the ear, they live that message. Their life is Swami's message. They are very fact, without their talking, you feel that these are the people who are the examples of Swami's teaching. They are the exemplars. So that is the kind we should have. Those are the people who really practice. That is what, and how the practice, that's why I was appreciating your careful listening and giving me the third step. Third step is paropakar, doing selfless service. That is why our organization is not only a spiritual organization, service organization, because Swami emphasizes service very much. If you want to have divine grace, doing loving service is very, very important. That's why most of you might have heard the story Swami says about Abu Ben Adam. You might have heard, right? Many of you might have heard. It looks like not too many people are nodding except Geeta. I know she heard all the stories. So this Abu Ben Adam, he was a very good young man. So he used to do a lot of loving service, he's serving the community and everything. So one day he was there in the night, an angel came into his room and he was writing some names in the wall. And he asked, what are you writing? I'm writing the names of the people who love God. Then he says, I don't do any puja, I don't do any meditation, I don't do any repetition, so my name won't be there. His name was not there because he doesn't do all that, he does service. So this happened after a few days. Again she saw the angel was coming, again writing names. So what are you writing? Now I am writing the names of the people whom God loves. He says, I won't be there, I won't do anything for him. No, just look, the angel says, his name was the top, number one. Because Swami says, God loves those people who do the loving service. Because whatever you do to the least of your brother, as Jesus said, you are doing to me. Service to man is service to God. So whenever you serve somebody, Swami says, it comes to me, it comes to him. So this is really, if you want to have divine grace, we need to all get into loving service. The last, fourth stage. What is the fourth one? Sakshatkar. That is the whole purpose of all our organization. So Swami says the purpose very clearly says, we forget sometimes, we get caught up in various other things. The purpose of our life, the goal of our life is to realize the self, realize the innate divinity. If we don't do that, our life is wasted. We have experienced Swami's love. This happened also about 20 years ago. I was sitting in the Purnachandra. There was one Professor Sainath, he was with Swami those days as a personal attendant. He came to me, I was sitting there, Swami wants you in the house. Swami that time moved from the mandir and was living in the Purnachandra before he moved to Yajur Mandir. So I went there and I was with Swami. I was blissful. Swami gave some snacks, eating, I was doing his massage of his legs. What else? Blissful at the feet of God, eating with him and having Pada Seva. I was so blissful. I said, Swami, I want to have this continue forever. Swami smiled. And then I made a next comment. I want this to continue even when you come as Premasai, I want to have this. Then Swami became stern. He says, why do you want to come back when I come as Premasai? You experienced my love so much and are so close to me. You should have a resolution. This is your last life. So that is why when people say they want Premasai, yes, let him come. But this is Premasai, the embodiment of love. Why do you want to live in the present, enjoy the real Prema which we experience from this Premasai? Don't think about this future which is uncertain. Swami says, live in the present, experience. Swami himself said, you have experienced, we all need to have that intensity and resolution. This is my last life and I want to realize the self. And what is finally realization? We are the divine. That's all Swami says, we are the embodiments of love. And once I was going with Swami in the car, when you are going with Swami in the car, people will be throwing flowers on the car. And these people outside, the people will run along with the car, they were shouting people to move around. And Swami rolls down the window, tells, don't talk to. I said, how could he hear? Because the windows were up, but shows Swami's ears are even outside. Then the interesting thing happened. Before we went into the ashram, there was one elderly woman from the West, whether Europe or USA. She threw flowers also at the Swami. But she was so fragile and feeble, so when she tried to throw the flowers, it fell on herself, it fell on the car. So, Swami, I didn't watch carefully. Swami said, Narendra, did you see that? Yes, Swami, I said, poor lady, she wanted to throw on the car, but it fell on herself. So I was very. Swami said, without knowing, she did the right thing, she said. Because there is God in herself, so you need to worship yourself. I remember for me, I was worshipping Shirdi Baba from my childhood, before I came to Swami. So in my ignorance, I would never do that. Now, in the beginning stage, I said, Swami, and I do my worship. I have Shirdi Baba picture, your picture. First I put the flower to Shirdi Baba, then only I put to you. Is it wrong? I said, maybe I should not have asked, but that time when you ignorant or innocent, whatever it is, I did that. Then Swami says, nothing wrong. You put on your own head, it is also good. So that time I said, Swami is teasing me. But then after many years of contemplation, I had the realization that he wants us to realize we are divine. So first you think God is somewhere else, and then finally we have to realize that we are divine. That is the whole purpose of spiritual practice. So, this is a Monday evening, so without taking much more time, I want to pray to Swami so that we progress in our spiritual journey, so that we realize God in this very lifetime. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you, Swami.
Dr. Reddy. I'm sure you've all enjoyed that thoroughly, and would have loved to hear much more of it. But this is what Swami has given us today. So perhaps in the future we may have occasion to listen to him again. It is my humble pleasure to invite to you Mrs. Geeta Mohanram, who hails all the way at the moment from the US, but having been born and brought up absolutely closely to our most beloved Bhagwan Baba. She and her family have been associated with Swami for the last 4 generations. She is the daughter of Dr. Padmanabhan, an ardent devotee and a familiar figure in Vrindavan. Swami's ashram in Bangalore. That's where most of her childhood experiences happened, including Puttapati. Her great-grandfather, Mr. Sheshagiri Rao, came to Swami in 1943 and was the temple priest of the Prashanti Nilayam temple for many, many years. Now, having come to Swami at a very tender age, Mrs. Geeta Ram's entire life is full of wonderful Sai experiences and the amazing anecdotes that she shared with us over the weekend in Durban, and that you may have already heard on Radio Sai or on DVDs that you may have bought on your trips to Prashanti. They have always been most interesting and illuminating. Currently, she lives in Washington, D.C. with her family. Sister Geeta Ram says, whenever I talk about my own experiences, the child growing up at his lotus feet, or about my youth, or about my adulthood, I always go back in time and enjoy that particular incident once again. I was fortunate enough to be born in a family where my great-grandfather came to Swami in 1943. So ever since then, we have had the fortune to enjoy his physical presence since we were living in Bangalore. The stories are amazing, and one can only visualize this wonderful grace given by Bhagavan to our dear beloved sister and mother, to be the boon, to have been her boon, and we receive this from the Lord in the form or the formless, this grace to serve him and to be servant of each devotees. From time to time, she does travel to certain countries, but she believes it is only when Swami wants her to do so. With those few words, I invite to the podium Sister Geeta Mohanla.
Mukam karoti vachalam panghum langayate girim yat krupatamaham vande paramananda madhava. My salutations at the feet of our ever-present beloved Swami, Brother Narendranath Reddy, all the other senior officials who are present here, and brothers and sisters of the Sai family. Sai Ram to all of you. Thank you for having me here, and as Dr. Reddy said, I know it is a weekday and a Monday evening, and it's very nice of you all to be still sitting here, especially after that wonderful talk that Dr. Reddy just gave. I have heard him speak, and also more than him, I have heard his father speak many times in Vrindavan, actually, sometimes in front of Swami, sometimes as a summer course student. I've had the wonderful privilege of hearing Dr. Reddy's father speak, who was also a wonderful speaker, writer. He's written many wonderful books. They're called the 9 Gems. If you haven't read them and do not have them, I would suggest that you do, because just like Dr. Reddy has just explained so many of Swami's messages in such simple words, Dr. Reddy too has compiled them beautifully. For me, Swami has been a presence in my life since I was born. I've experienced him in many different ways, as a mother, as a father, as a good friend, as a wonderful teacher, and of course everything that Swami does, even when he jokes, laughs, even when he played with us, there was a lesson to be learned. But one of the things that comes to my mind as I was sitting there thinking and listening to Dr. Reddy was, we all have to love and do his work, but one of the important things that Swami taught us as children, my cousins and I, we played around him, he came and stayed in my parents' house. We spent a lot of time in Swami's presence, but Swami did emphasize, along with the love that we practice, we also have to practice discipline. Because love without discipline, in a worldly sense, when I'm a mother with my children or whoever, sometimes takes us in the wrong path. I remember as a child in Vrindavan, in the old Vrindavan building, before the Trai building came, there was an old English bungalow that Swami used to live in. And at that time, there were no Sevadal or anybody there. We were all of the people who would go from Bangalore city. Mr. Ramabrahmam was there to look after Swami. And the food sometimes would be cooked by my mother and taken. And all of us, my cousins and I, were given jobs on the weekends to clean the building and mop and sweep and even clean Swami's room. And there was a small group of devotees, so it was not as segregated as it was. We were all family members. So men and women, some of us did the gardening, some of the ladies cooked there, and especially if Swami had guests, my aunts would cook there so that Swami was able to serve his guests. And everybody had a job. I was a kid and I didn't have a job. There was nothing much left for me to do, since all of the cousins and everybody had grabbed every time Swami said, and they were a little older than me. So I remember that I was very, very disappointed that Swami had not thought that I was responsible enough to do any work for him. So when I was sitting there in the evening, Swami would sit in the dining room of that old building, and that's where we would do bhajans. There were the pictures there was a small little stage and there were pictures there, lots of pictures of Swami. And in fact, when people garlanded him, when he went outside, the garlands would be brought and put on all those pictures that were there on this little stage. And there was a chair and Swami would sit there, and sometimes he would give discourses in a very informal way, and then he would himself lead the bhajans, and we would have bhajans, and then Swami would have dinner in the dining room. So I was sitting there and everybody had a job and they all came and sat, and Swami was asking them that evening how different things had gone. And then he looked at me and said, "What work did you do?" And I said, "You never gave me any work, Swami." And I was almost in tears because I was a little kid and I felt that somehow I had been sort of put in the background. So Swami said, oh, I didn't give you any work. Oh, I have a lot of work. And he pointed to the pictures that were there on the stage and he said, you see all these garlands, every day it gets dried up and all the petals starts falling out. And so many garlands came every day. So every time when you come in the weekend, because on the weekdays we couldn't go to Vrindavan because we had school. When you come on Saturday mornings, your job would be either in the morning or in the evening. You can take out the pictures, move them a little bit and take out all the dried petals that have fallen behind the pictures and clean the pictures and put it back nicely. So I was really thrilled because this way I would be sitting there right next to Swami's chair on the stage making sure that the garlands were either on the pictures or taken away and cleaning. So I did it quite happily for many weeks. And every weekend Swami would come and as a true mother would appreciate the fact that I had done a good job and in fact he would tell everybody, see how nicely, but he would say, be careful with the big pictures, don't drop it on yourself. So this went on for many weeks. And then there was one particular weekend when a very famous musician, M.S. Subbalakshmi, many of you may have heard of her, she was an ardent devotee of Swami. She was going to give a music concert in Bangalore city. Now I used to love her music, so I had wanted to attend a music concert. So I told my mother that I wouldn't come to Vrindavan that day. I wanted to listen to Subbalakshmi's music concert. And my parents were pretty strict with us children. If we had made a commitment, we better stick to it. So my mother said, no, you cannot do that. You cannot go to the concert because remember you have your job of cleaning the stage and the altar. You have to remove all the old flowers you have committed to Swami. So I said, oh, this cousin is coming and that cousin is coming. I'll request one of them to do it for me because I want to go to the concert. It's not like the work will not get done. I'll just request someone else to do it. My mother said, no, you have committed to Swami, you need to show up to do your work. So with quite a bit of argument with my mother, because my whole point was, Subbalakshmi comes once a year during the Ramanavami season to give concerts. Swami is always here. You know, what's the big problem? You know, I can do it next week. I'm seeing Swami all the time during the week. She only comes once a year. But my mother didn't allow me to do that and I had to go with quite a long face and not a very happy person. Went there and I remember that after Swami had gone out for darshan and I was doing my job because we were late because of all this argument, I couldn't go outside and sit for the darshan. So I had to finish my work. So I had taken out all the pictures and I was kind of banging it around and removing the flowers and wiping it and not doing it. I was not a happy camper at all and not doing it with any great love for that job. So I was banging it around a little bit and Swami finished his darshan and came with more garlands. So now another new job started. You know, I have to put all the garlands back on those pictures again, thinking, okay, now again I have to come back and clean this stuff up tomorrow. So Swami came and he kind of looked at my face and said, why do you have a castor oil face? When Dr. Reddy said that, that's what I remember, this was the incident. Why do you have such a long face? I didn't say anything. I could hardly tell him that I didn't want to see him. I would have rather gone for Subbalakshmi's concert. So I didn't answer. He said, no, why? What is wrong? Did Amma scold you? Did mother scold you? He said. So then at that point I had to answer. So I said, yes. He said, why? What did you do? So I said, Swami, I wanted to go to a concert, but she said that I have to come here. The Swami is such a master psychologist. He said, oh, why? Why didn't you go? She's such a wonderful singer and I know you like her songs. Why didn't you go? I said, no, Swami, mother said that since I had accepted to do this job here in Vrindavan, I had to come. So Swami very cleverly said, why all your cousins were here? You could have told any one of them to do this. So then I thought, wow, he really understands my problem. Unlike my mother. So I said, that's exactly right. I told her that, you know. I told her that, you know, I should ask one of my cousins, but she said since I was the one who had committed, I had to do it. So he said, oh, poor thing, you know. What time is the concert? He said. So I said, Swami, it starts around 7 or 7:15 and goes on till about 9 o'clock. So he said, oh, it's only 5 or 5:15 now. Even if you go now, you can go to the concert, is it not? So I was, yes, I can go. But usually Swami's routine was he would come and speak to some people in the main room, then come back, sit here, chat with all the ladies, then there's going to be a bhajan, then he'll say, Emi Samacharam, what news? Then everybody will start talking about their personal problems, then dinner, then we used to leave. late in the evening. So he said, it's very difficult when you make a commitment, you have to keep it. But here's what we will do. Today, we won't have any bhajan. I won't do any talking today. We will just do the bhajans. We will finish quickly and you can go to the concert. So I was really thrilled, if the bhajans got over, even if I was a little late, since the concert was for 2 hours, at least I would listen to most of it. So my cousins were the singers in those days. There were not even that many singers, not the Vrindavan singers even. So all my cousins were there, the boys and the girls and the ladies. So I went and said, look, Swami has said no discourses today, only bhajan singing. So please, for heaven's sake, stop singing bhajans like Manasa Bhajane, Gurucharanam and Sada Nirantara, which like never end. The bhajans never end. Goes on and on. Stick to the 4-line Namavulis and let's get it over with. So my cousin said, what's going on? So I said, no, look, if you all finish, we can all go to Subbalakshmi's concert. So let's finish this. Let's do that. And Swami, after I eat 4 or 5 bhajans, usually says Aarti. So everybody was sitting there. Swami finishes whatever he was doing and comes and sits on that chair in the altar. And I'm thinking, okay, bhajans now. And everybody is ready because Swami had said he was not going to talk much. And Swami comes as usual, says, and Yevi Samacharam, he says, what news? Oh no, now everybody is going to start telling my daughter is not getting married, Swami, I have exams, Swami, all these usual. So, when you're young, you don't want to hear all these things. And I'm looking, and then Swami starts chatting with everybody. And then suddenly in the middle of all this conversation, and I look at my watch and I know that I'll never make it to the concert at this rate. When suddenly he stops talking and he says, just wait 1 minute, I will come. And he goes to the front of the house. The dining room was in the back. And he has disappeared for about 10 minutes, which makes it even worse because he's going to come back and then have bhajans. Then he comes after about 10 minutes and behind him comes MS Subbulakshmi, the violinist who was supposed to play with her, the mridangist who was supposed to play the percussion, and the whole group of musicians. And they all walk in. She was an ardent devotee of Swami. She was a wonderful singer. And Swami came and he made them all sit down. And then he said in Tamil to Subbulakshmi, "Enna Subbulakshmi, inniki concert illaya?" He said, "What Subbulakshmi? Is it there not a concert today? How is it that you came suddenly to Vrindavan to see me?" She said, "No, Swami, there was a printing mistake in the newspaper. The concert is tomorrow." So Swami said, "Oh, is that right? The concert is tomorrow." And then he said, this poor girl wanted to go to your concert and she was very disappointed because she thought that she was missing it. If it is tomorrow, she can go. Because tomorrow being the Monday, I have school and everything. Usually we don't come to Vrindavan. She can go after school to your concert. But he says, she likes all these songs. And he's went on giving out all the songs that I liked of hers, which she sings. And then she said, "Swami, may I sing to you today a few songs?" And Swami most patiently sat there for almost an hour, and this lady sang almost 10 songs that I love, one after the other. And what a wonderful concert, because we were about 25 people there, been given an exclusive concert from this world-renowned musician, and that too in front of our beloved Lord, who just enjoyed each and every song. And after the music concert was over, he came and said, Bangaru, if you do your duty, I'm always watching. And at the right time, I know when to give you the reward too. So that was one of my first lessons of having given a commitment, sticking to it with discipline. The other one that Swami really taught me how to be really disciplined was, it was about time actually. It was not even about doing something in particular. Swami was going to go to General Cariappa. He was the first general of the Indian army after the British rule. And he was a very ardent devotee of Swami's. And he was a tall man, and he would bend down completely down to his knees, and he would kneel down and talk to Swami. And Swami would always say, "General, stand up, don't kneel down, it will hurt." When you kneel down, and he would say, "No, Swami, I have no courage. I'm a general, but I have no courage to look down upon the Lord." Because he was so much taller than Swami. He would always kneel down and talk to Swami. So Swami was supposed to go to General Cariappa's house one evening. And General Karyappa, who was a strict disciplinarian, when Swami asked in front of all of us on one of those evenings that we were sitting, he said, Karyappa, in Kannada he would talk to him, he was a Kurgi gentleman, when would you want me to come to your house, what time? He said, Swami, high tea would be very good. He was trained by the British. He said, high tea would be very good at 5:30. So Swami said, 5:30 is the time you usually have high tea? And yes, Swami, that would be very good. So, Swami, my father used to drive Swami in those days in the car. So he said, Padmana, I will go to Karyappa's house and come to your house for dinner. So you come in time and take me to his house. My father was terrible with roads. He did not find any place. He knew how to drive to Vrindavan, he knew how to drive to his work, and he knew how to drive home. So this new job that Swami gave him to drive Swami to General Karyappa's house the following Thursday just completely stressed him out. So he took me along with him. I had a pretty good memory for roads. So he said, you come with me and we'll do a trial run on the previous day. So we drove to Vrindavan, and from Vrindavan we drove to Karyappa's house because my father wanted to know exactly how to take Swami because he didn't want to get lost with Swami sitting in the car. So we drove and we timed it to see how long it would take, and we knew exactly how to get there. And my father was comfortable. I knew. I said, don't worry, I can tell you. I noted down all the turnings and all that. So the day of taking Swami to Karyappa's house, I really had the good fortune till I was almost 13 years old to be able to go wherever Swami went in his car. Every time Swami went somewhere or came to our house, I would also travel with Swami in the car. So we came and Swami came out and said, are you ready? It's time to go. Remember, it's high tea. He's a general. If you go late, he won't give us tea. So we got into the car, and because my father had done this trial run, he drove perfectly and we arrived at their house at 5:15. And Swami, of course, doesn't wear a watch or anything, as you know. He said, Padmana, you brought me, and it was one of those older cars. It wasn't even Swami's car, it was my father's car, which didn't have a clock in the car and all that. It was a Fiat that my father had. He said, you brought me here 20 minutes too early, 20 minutes before the program. So you take around here, around the house, and bring me back in 15 minutes to his gate. So now my father started to drive and he doesn't know how to come back because we hadn't done that trial run. So we started to drive around, and then my father is completely flustered. And Swami said, don't worry, I know the road. I will tell you how to get there. And we arrived exactly at 5:30 to General Karyappa's house. And we went, and by that time the guard was ready, had the gate. When we went 20 minutes before, the gates were all closed with those huge gates and guards outside the house. But when we arrived at 5:30, the gates were open and General Karyappa was standing near the gate with the garland and everything ready. So Swami very laughingly said, I told you, if you come too early, we won't get the garland or the tea. And we went in. So that was a huge lesson for me from Swami, that to be on time, absolutely on time. Not too early and not late either. And to be on time. So that was one of the incidents that I had learned. And having learnt this, I made a huge mistake as a SSC teacher much later in my life. The funny thing is, in Swami's presence, and when you're listening to him or reading his discourses or listening to somebody like Dr. Reddy, we all feel very motivated to go back home and start practicing it. But when it actually comes to really doing it, we all start taking it easy, slowly. First 2 days we may do something and then we slowly forget to practice it. And I'm no different from anybody. Swami, I think I shared this incident with the young adults the other day at the conference, but I think it's worth talking about it because I just want to tell you that Swami is very, very particular about how we behave and what we do. And if we are really ardently doing his work, even when we make some mistakes, he does forgive us too. So I thought I would share that a little bit with you. I was asked to become an SSC trainer at quite a young age. Swami suddenly asked me to become a Bal Vikas Guru when I was about 14 and a half. My mother, at that time, the Bal Vikas program just started very informally in the beginning, just as a home Bal Vikas with just the neighborhood children. And then when Swami formalized it in 1971-72, he asked my mother to become the state coordinator for SSC for the state of Karnataka. And in those days, in the smaller towns of Karnataka, the women were not coming out of their homes and conducted classes and all. They was quite conservative. So Swami had given my mother the task for the first year to go to all the small towns around Bangalore and some quite far away, to go and talk to the men in the Sai centers, to allow the women to come out of their homes and conduct Bal Vikas classes. So that was her job. So when my mother was given this, she said, Swami, how am I going to do this? Who is going to conduct the Bal Vikas class that I have in the house? Because she had about 30 neighboring children who were coming. And Swami very quickly pointed to me and said, she's been listening all her life, she can be the Bal Vikas guru. And I thought he was pointing to my cousin who was older than me, but he picked me to become the guru, and I was in 10th grade, 9th grade at that time, and I became a Bal Vikas guru. So for quite some time, I became a teacher. So because of that, I had been teaching for some time. And when Swami started the first Education in Human Values program in Bangalore, at that time we had a education minister in the state of Karnataka, Nagamake Murthy, who wanted Swami's human values to be taught to government teachers so that they could in turn take it to their children. So when Swami started that, Swami asked a particular lady, Kalyani Sundaram, to become the lead for this SSC program, and he asked her to put me on this list of trainers. So our job was to go to various government schools all over Karnataka and train the teachers there so that they could in turn go back and use that program in their classes. Now when she called me one evening, I was in college at that time, I was in 12th grade, first year of my college actually. She called me and said, very reluctantly, she didn't really want me there because she thought I was too young to be going and teaching government school teachers who were very well experienced older teachers how to do education in human values. I was a young girl, 17 or 18 years old. And she said, you know, I had a list of teachers. Swami has selected 9 teachers, and out of that he has selected you also. He wants you to come and with me for all these Education in Human Values program. I said, Auntie, how can I come? Because I have college most of the time and I won't be able to travel with you. The Education in Human Value training program was for 5 days, Monday through Friday. So she said, no, I told that to Swami, but he said, take her whenever the college is closed for holidays or when the talks are there on the weekend. So you come along. Now once she called and told me this, I was quite unhappy about it, and I kept complaining to my mother and said, I really don't want to do this. I don't know why Swami has put me there. And my main reason for complaining was I was asked to go with all these old folks. At that time I was 17 or 18 and everybody above 30 I thought was old. And now, you know, it's a very different perspective. But I didn't want to. I said, I don't want to go with all these old Bal Vikas gurus all over the state of Karnataka giving all these talks. And my mother, as usual, being the strict person that she was, she said, look, if you have a problem, you should go and tell Swami. You have the courage to go sit in Vrindavan and you tell him that you don't want to do this. So I said, okay, I'm going to go and tell him. I really don't want to do, and the reason I'm going to say is that I have a lot of college work. So that in itself is wrong, because that was not really my reason. So I went to Vrindavan. I sat there and Swami very sweetly came in the darshan line and said, did Kalyani Sundaram call you? He asked me. I said, yes, Swami. Did she tell you that I told her to put your name for the Education in Human Values train? I said, yes, Swami. And before I could open my mouth, he said, I have told her that you can go only when the college is closed. So you don't have any reason to worry about it, Bangaru. It will not affect your college work. You go with her. I have also told her that you should not travel alone to these places because you're a young girl. Make sure that there is always an elder with you. So this was even worse. First of all, I didn't want to go with him, and now he wants me not even to go by the bus or however it was. So anyway, some programs happened. In and around Bangalore, I went with this lady, and Kalyani auntie took her job very seriously. She would chaperone me everywhere. She would come with me to the restroom, she would come with me to the bus stop. She said, I don't know, Swami has said, take you everywhere, I am coming with you. So if I had to go anywhere out of the venue, even to the next room, she would follow me. Because she was very scared that Swami would question her. So we went to a few places, it wasn't too bad. I would just sit by myself. I would read some books and finish the program, whatever topic they gave. Now, one particular time, they had a program in a place called Tumkur, which is about 70-80 kilometers from Bangalore. And Kalyani auntie said, it is summer holidays now. You come for all the 5 days. I'm giving you 3 topics, you come. All the 3 days you come because you don't have college. Now by this time, having done 3 or 4 programs with Kalyani auntie, I had really felt the stress. Now these older ladies would sit, they would all chat about their husbands, their daughters-in-law, their grandchildren. And I would try to take a novel or something to read with me, but I didn't want her to catch me reading some Barbara Cartland book or whatever it was I was reading at that time. So I would put it between the Sathya Sai speaks and read. You know, completely forgetting, I who had grown up with Swami, who knew every thought, word and action. I have been caught so many times and he would catch me telling me you did this or that. I would read because I thought Swami was in Puttaparthi for Navaratri and for Guru Purnima. So this particular trip to Tumkur on Monday morning, we went. It took, we left, the program started at 10:30, we left around 8 o'clock, got there by 10, made sure everything was set up, and the program started at 10:30. And she was the wife of a colonel too, so she was very, very strict. So everything went very well. My talk was late in the afternoon at about 3 o'clock, so I had to sit through everybody's talks. It was the same program that we did over and over again, so I heard everybody's talks. I would sit in the back and read that novel in the Sathya Sai speaks. Anyway, on Tuesday, I decided that this was too boring to go so early in the morning. I thought, why, if my talk is at 3 o'clock, why should I go at 8 in the morning, with these people? I can take a later bus. And I knew if I told Kalyani auntie, she would never agree. She would say, you have to come with us and go back. So I did, completely forgetting that Swami is there with us at all times, knowing every thought. I told my mother bye at 7 o'clock. I was supposed to meet Kalyani auntie at the bus stand along with the other teachers where we would take a bus together. I told my mother, bye mom, see you. And I left my mother's house. I completely omitted to tell her that I wasn't going to the bus stand. I went to my friend's house. It was those days were very peaceful days because we didn't have cell phones, so the mothers couldn't track us where we were. So I went to my friend's house. And Kalyani auntie was desperately waiting at the bus stand and I didn't show up. She has called my mother from some pay phone and said, where is Geeta? We are going to leave, the bus is here. She's not here. And my mother said, oh, she's already left more than 45 minutes ago. She will be there soon. But 8 o'clock came, I didn't come and auntie had to leave with the other speakers because the program has to start at 10:30 on time. So she just left, but she was very worried. I happily went to my friend's house, chatted with her, had some dosa in their house. And my friend said, aren't you supposed to be in Tumkur? What are you doing in our house? I said, my talk is at 3 o'clock, I don't need to go and sit there from 10 in the morning. But she said, I thought Swami had told you to always go with these older folks. I said, yeah, they're really boring, my God, they keep talking about their husbands and their children and all that. So I really didn't want to go with them. I can go by myself. I'm a city girl. What's there to be scared of, Get into the bus and you get off there. And the venue was a boys' college. And the bus stopped right in front of the college. The college was empty because it was closed for the summer holidays. And the program was being conducted there in one of the rooms. So at 1:30, I thought, okay, my talk is at 3:30. If I leave at 11:30, 12, enough time to get there. So I got into the bus around 12:30 or so. And nicely sat there. The bus was filled with men. Now I'm talking about the 70s in Bangalore. It's a small town, conservative. Many girls did not travel by themselves into rural areas at that time. They would always have an adult accompanying them, brother, sister, father, somebody. I got into the bus very self-confidently. The bus started. It had hardly gone at 10 kilometers when it started to make some strange sounds and broke down. So everybody had to get out of the bus. I was still not worried. It was still 2 hours for my talk. It only takes an hour and 20 minutes to get there. And there was a roadside tea stop and I went to have some tea and I heard a couple of older men talking and saying that look what the town and city girls are coming to these days. God knows what kind of upbringing this girl is getting from her parents. She's traveling all over the place by herself. So I overheard this. And I felt a little bad because my parents were really wonderful people. I was really exposing them to really bad comments because of my behavior. And I considered Swami as my parent, so he got included in this basket too. And I kind of felt a little bad, and then I said, who cares what these old conservative people think, you know? They're really, really backward. They don't, you know, they're from some village or something. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry. And a little later the bus started. We all got back in, the bus went. Sure enough, I got there about almost 20 minutes before my talk, got out of the bus very confidently, walked into the college where the previous day we had conducted the program. There was nobody there. It was empty. So I started to go from room to room. It was a huge college. Where is it? Where is it? Maybe they just moved to another room. And I found a few people painting. And I said, what happened to the program that we started here yesterday? They said, oh, this is a government college. They moved the venue to another government college today because we are painting the building, they said. So I said, okay, where is that? Now you know the clock is ticking because there's about 25 minutes or 30 minutes left for my talk. And I know that is one thing that is unacceptable for Swami is to start late. So I went and asked a few people. Somebody told me it's this college, that college. They were unsure. They were just painting the building. They were painters. I finally found out the name and I came out and there was a big field, you know, a soccer field in front of the college, and I had to cross that to come to the street. And I was thinking of taking a rickshaw, you know, those auto rickshaws you might have seen in India. I thought I would take that and go to the other college. I came and there was a whole bunch of, this was a boys' college, we were all playing soccer there. They really started to misbehave because they had never seen a young girl going around by herself in this. So they started to circle me with their motorbikes and I started to get really scared. They were not allowing me to walk on their field to get to the main road. They were just going round and round with their bicycles and motorbikes. And you know, Sankata Bandare Venkata Ramana, we say in Kannada. When you are in trouble, who do you call but Venkata Ramana? For us it is Sai Rama. So that soft Sai Ram that had started when the bus stop became a big noise and a crescendo. Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, where are you? I don't know how to get out of this field. And somehow I managed to get, and I was almost in tears by the time I came to the road and really very scared because it was just boys everywhere and I could not find a rickshaw to get into. And I was saying, I'm really sorry, Swami, I know I did not do the right thing. I know I lied to my mother, I said something to my friend, and poor Kalyani auntie must be petrified now with 20 minutes to go and no speaker. And as I came out, a car went by, it had tinted glass, it went further, stopped, and the car backed up. And now I thought, oh gosh, now what car is this backing up towards me? The window of the car comes down, and in the back seat is sitting Swami's sister, Venkama. Like, oh gosh, what is she doing in Tumkur instead of Puttaparthi? And catches me red-handed in front of a boys' college. And sure enough, she said, Padmanabh Putra Kadu, Auntie Padmanabh's daughter? I said, yes, Auntie. She said, what are you doing in front of a boys' college 80 kilometers away from home? That was community upbringing for you. Everybody took care of everybody's children. And she wanted to know why I was there. So I said, no, Auntie, I came for an SSC program and I have to go and they've changed the venue and I have to. And I told her quickly the story. She said, isn't Kalyani Sundaram the person who is doing this? I said, what is she doing, leaving you young girls like this to travel by yourself? She's not doing her job properly. I think I have to talk to Swami. I said, please don't talk to Swami. Poor lady has done nothing. I am the one. I said, no, Auntie, I missed the bus. I said, I missed the bus. It was truth, but not really the truth. I had missed it deliberately. So, she said, get into the car and we will drop you wherever you have to go. And you get into the car, we'll drop you. And she could see that I had been a little agitated. So she told her son-in-law who was driving the car, you get her some tender coconut to drink and let us go and take her in. So finally, we got into the car. I said, Auntie, why are you in Tumkur? It's completely different direction from Puttaparthi. And I was wishing that she had not seen me there. So she said, no, we were going to Shimoga, but my Shimoga is another place. Said, I got a terrible headache. So we just took a deviation to buy some aspirin. I said, oh, she said, sit down. And I go back to Puttaparthi. Don't worry, Bangaro. I will tell Swami that you girls should not be traveling alone. You should always have an adult with you. Like, no, Auntie, it's okay. Yeah, I'm always going with everybody, I told her. And we finally arrived at the venue and poor Kalyani auntie was outside, grabbed my arm and said, you have 5 minutes before you get off that stage, come on up. And then she talked to them and we said our goodbyes and went away. We came back to Bangalore, the program went off well. Thankfully, Swami was in Puttaparthi for Guru Purnima. There was still time. So I said, okay, this program is over. Nobody knows what I have done. I got there, I gave my talk, it's over with. You know, we keep listening to Swami and we sing our bhajans, you are everywhere, we say, but we forget that he is everywhere. A few weeks later, Swami came back after Guru Purnima to Bangalore, and the usual routine was, auntie and all of the teachers, we would go on the weekend and give Swami the report of all the programs that we had conducted. And Swami sometimes would call us and talk to us about the programs, give us really some tips how to teach these non-devotee teachers to teach SSC, EHV rather I should say. And he came and talked to her, where did you go? And Kalyani auntie gave her thing, and all the teachers he came and gave Pad Namaskar. This was outside in Vrindavan during the darshan time. And as Dr. Reddy was saying, when Swami wants to talk to one person, he'll make sure only that person hears. All these ladies, older ladies were sitting next to me. He came and stood in front of me. And he said very softly to me, how was Tumku? By that time he had done other programs, he didn't talk about that. How was Tumku? So I said, you know, better to give very minimum information. It was went off well for me. I said, oh, how did you miss the bus? He said, no, I missed the bus in the morning. So I said, yes. Shall I tell all these ladies how they are so boring? They talk about their husbands, they talk about their children, and you'd much rather read a storybook inside Sathya Sai Speaks. I tell her, so he knew what I had done. I said, no, Swami, please, whatever it is, let it be between you and me. Let these ladies think I'm that good girl that is in their group. I said, what? And then, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, till my ears were burning, you are saying Sai Ram. Those boys are behaving badly, and then you come out and you're in tears, you don't know the venue. He told the whole story, and then he says, I said, I'm really sorry, Swami. Yes, I know. How many thousand Sai Rams did you say in 5 minutes? You were sorry, but after you had made all these mistakes, he said, and then that poor Venkamma, she never had a headache in her life. I had to give her a headache to rescue you. Poor woman had to go somewhere for some function. They had to come looking for aspirin in Tumkur. And then you get it, nicely drink tender coconut and go and sleep. He said, you wait, I will tell Venkamma what you did. He said, please don't tell. She had seen me since my birth. She was a wonderful lady, Swami's sister. She was very affectionate. Please don't tell her, Swami, I'm really sorry. I said, see, there is a reason when I tell you to do something, follow to the letter. Obedience is one of the most important things if you want to be a good student, a good spiritual aspirant. Just follow what I say and you will be able to. And I said that. Then much later, another time, a few days later, when I said, thank you for rescuing me, Swami. He said, what else can I do? I'm a protector of my children. I have to protect you also. Even when you make mistakes, I have to forgive you. But don't keep making the same mistakes. Make new ones. There's always one chance. And he did go back to Puttaparthi and tell Venkamma Garu what I had done. So every time she saw me, till almost in the day she passed away, she would say, you got me a headache. She would tell me, even after I got married and had my own children. So we sometimes forget and make these mistakes. Of course, he's our protector and he's our mother and father and he will look after us. But even he has finite patience. If we keep making the same mistakes, then he may not respond as quickly to our problems as we would want him to. So I think it is a good idea to really remember to practice what he says and try to bring it into our lives. The other thing that he says, and I'll tell you, and I have about 2 minutes, there was an elderly lady in that first group of devotees who went to Puttaparthi. I was talking about this in the conference as well. There were about 8 families from my relatives who were the first people who went to Puttaparthi from Bangalore in 43. I was not born then, my aunts and cousins went. In this group, there was one aunt who was actually not our relative, but a very, very close friend. So she had become like a family member, and she was one, her family was one. So throughout my life, and my childhood, she was just another aunt, just like my father's sisters and my mother's sisters. She was also one aunt that I grew up with. In fact, her name was Janakamma. And in fact, it is her daughter, Mani Bhashyam, who has composed the Paramam Pavitram, Baba Vibhutim, that we sing all over the world now. She was a great composer. She's a great composer. She lives in Canada, Mani Auntie, her daughter. And she has composed many songs, bhajans, which you are all familiar with. Swami used to sing, in fact, Kshirabdi Shayana and all of these older bhajans that Swami used to sing. That lady's daughter.